I woke up at 300 a.m. to an empty bed. It wasn't the first time she'd disappeared in the middle of the night, but something felt different this time. I lay there in the darkness, listening to the soft hum of the refrigerator, the quiet pulse of the night outside. I reached over to the side where she should have been, but the sheets were cold. I checked my phone. Notifications lit up the screen, texts, missed calls from apps. I scrolled through them quickly. Nothing important. Then I saw it. A message from her, timestamped at 2:45 am. Tra, where are you? Why didn't you text me when you got home? She was worried, I thought. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But then I noticed something strange. Her phone was buzzing like mad from downstairs. I wasn't the paranoid type, but a red flag shot up. She was usually glued to her phone. Why would she leave it behind, especially in the middle of the night? I got up quietly, the floor creaking under my feet. I didn't want to wake her if she was still asleep, but I had to know. I texted her, "Hey, you okay? Where are you?" Seconds later, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen, the call dropping like an anchor straight into my chest. I answered without thinking, "Are you serious right now?" Her voice was sharp, slicing through the quiet of the apartment. She was screaming, her words harsh, ragged. "You're checking up on me at 300 am. Do you have any idea how suffocating you are? I just wish you weren't here." I was worried. My brain was foggy from sleep. I didn't know what to say. I stammered. "I was just asking where you were." I got worried, too. "You're controlling. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're always breathing down my neck, always asking questions, always needing to know everything. I can't do this anymore." Frozen, the words hit me like ice. A Clingy. Controlling. Always asking questions. The label I'd been dreading for months now, the one I thought would never come. I wasn't suffocating her. I was just worried. And it wasn't the first time something like this had happened. "I need space," she added, her voice cold and final. "God, why can't you just give me space?" The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, the screen flickering back to life. She came home hours later, around 6:23 am. I pretended to be asleep, the last remnants of her heel echoing in my mind. She slipped into bed as if nothing had happened. Her phone buzzed constantly, but she didn't seem to notice. She smelled like cigarettes and something else I didn't want to identify. I knew in that moment that it didn't matter what I did. I was already too much. I'd already crossed a line. I waited until she was completely passed out, the rise and flow of her breath slow and steady. Then I got to work. I called my boss at 8:20 am and told him there was a family emergency. I needed time off, starting now. He asked if everything was okay. I told him I'd explain later. I didn't plan on explaining anything. I called my buddy be a favor, said I needed his truck and his muscles. He didn't ask questions. He just agreed. By 10:00 am, we were loading up everything I owned, clothes, electronics, kitchenware, furniture into his truck. Her stuff stayed behind. I left it all. The expensive hair straightener she'd begged me to buy, her clothes, her makeup, even the bed. I didn't care anymore. When it was done, when everything of mine was out, I sat in the empty apartment for a moment, staring at the barren walls. The lease was in my name. The apartment, the life we'd built together, all of it was mine. I didn't need her stuff. I canceled my name from the utilities, grabbed my documents, birth certificate, passport, and headed out the door. I went to the bank, closed accounts, and then went back to the jeweler. The fourth 200 I'd saved up for the engagement ring. I took it back. The return wasn't great, but I walked out with 300 in cash. I used that money with my savings to put a deposit down on a new apartment in a different state. The job offer I'd turned down 6 months ago because she gave leave her friends. I called them back. The position was still open. The whole operation took 11 hours. By 9:00 p.m. I was gone. No goodbye. Just the silent click of the front door locking behind me, the sound of my own footsteps echoing as I walked away. She wanted space. She got infinite space. Before the new SIM card even activated, I blocked her friends, her family, everyone. I wiped my hands clean of it. I slept at my buddy's place that night. He kept looking at me like I'd lost it. Hugo said, and weirdly, I felt nothing. Just done. I drove for hours the next day, my mind numb, the road stretching out in front of me like some never-ending symbol of escape. The farther I got, the lighter I felt. I didn't know where I was going exactly, but I knew I had to go. The first few days were a blur. I spent a lot of time walking around the new city, just taking it in. It was big, crowded, full of opportunity, People here didn't know me. They didn't know my past, my mistakes, or the woman who tried to suffocate me with her need for control. I could finally breathe. I found a small apartment in a quiet building on the edge of town. Wasn't much, but it was mine. Clean, simple, and completely mine. I didn't want anything fancy. I didn't need any reminders of what I'd left behind. I spent the next week buying furniture, setting up everything just the way I liked it. There were no arguments about where to put the couch or what to paint the walls. I chose everything. The job was waiting for me. I didn't expect it to be this easy, but I fell into the routine quickly. I kept my head hard and made a few new friends here and there. It felt good. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was doing something right. I threw myself in my work, trying to forget the mess I'd left behind. But sometimes when I got home at night, I'd sit on the couch alone in the silence and think about her. About everything that had happened. How we'd gotten to this point. How I'd reached the end of my rope with her. I wondered if she ever thought about me, about the way she'd screamed at me, about the life she'd destroyed by pushing me too far. A few months in, I started seeing someone. It wasn't serious, but we went out for coffee, to concerts, to see movies. She was easy to talk to, patient with me when I got quiet. I could tell she was interested in me, but I wasn't ready for anything heavy. It was enough just to have someone who didn't scream asking where they were at 3 a.m. I went to therapy too. It wasn't easy talking about all the things that had happened, but I needed to understand why I kept letting people walk over me. Why I thought I needed to be the one to fix everything, to carry the burden. The therapist didn't have any magic answers, but it helped. Little by little, I started to feel like myself again. I spent the next year rebuilding. I got new furniture, better clothes, made more friends. I started thinking about the future. What was next? What did I want out of life? I was doing fine, I was okay. I told myself that every day. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon, while I was sitting in a coffee shop near my office, working on some reports, I heard the door open behind me. I didn't think anything of it at first. People came and went all the time. But then I heard someone sit down across from me. "So, this is where you've been hiding." I froze. I looked up, and there she was. My ex-girlfriend. Sitting there, as if 3 years hadn't passed, as if nothing had changed. She smiled at me, the same smile that used to drive me crazy. The one that always made me think everything would be okay. "I've been looking for you for a long time," she said, her voice casual, as if we were just picking up where we left off. "Took me a while, but I found you." I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond. "How did you find me?" I asked, my voice flat, detached. She shrugged like it was no big deal. "Your friend finally told me where you went. Took some convincing, but I can be very persuasive." I closed my laptop, my haunting. She smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile that said she was about to try to turn my life upside down again. "I need to talk to you," she said, leaning forward. I leaned back in my chair, my arms crossing over my chest. "No, we don't need to talk." She ignored me, her eyes searching my flick. She was looking for something. "I've been through a lot, you know, and I'm pregnant." My stomach dropped, and for a moment, I thought I might actually pass out. "What?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm pregnant," she repeated, a slight smirk playing at the corners of her lips. "And you're the father." I didn't move. I didn't speak. My mind was reeling, was impossible. It didn't make sense. We'd broken up 3 years ago. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. But it didn't add up. That's not possible. We broke up 3 years ago. That doesn't." Her smile faltered just for a second. She cleared her throat and sat back. "You're the father," she said again, more forcefully this time. "I didn't know how to tell you, but I'm telling you now." My head was spinning. I didn't know if she was lying, if she was trying to manipulate me, or if she really believed it. "Show me a picture," I said, my voice hard. "A birth certificate." Something. She pulled out her phone, her hands shaking, and showed me a picture. A picture of a kid who could be anyone's. Brown hair, blue eyes. Looked like every other 2-year-old I'd seen. Nothing about him screamed mine. "The birth certificate's his father unknown," she said, her voice quieter now but still firm. "But I know it's you." I sat back, trying to process everything she just said. My thoughts were clouded, but I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my stomach. I stood up, gathering my things. "I don't know what your game is, but I'm not doing this," I said, my voice steady though as anything but calm. She grabbed my wrist. Wait, she said, her voice rising now, people staring to talk about this. You left me? You abandoned me. I pull my wrist free. No. I gave you exactly what you wanted. You wanted space. You got it. Now you're showing up here, out of nowhere, telling me I'm the father of your child. I shook my head. No, this ends now. I started walking toward the door, my mind racing. But I heard her voice again. I'm pregnant, and you need to step up. I need help. I didn't look back. I walked out of the coffee shop, my head spinning. The last 3 years of my life, everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, suddenly felt like it could be ripped apart in an instant. I didn't know if she was telling the truth or if this was some sick game, but I wasn't ready to find out just yet. I needed answers, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me again. I didn't sleep much the night after seeing her. The image of her sitting there, smug and confident, still burned in my mind. I didn't know if she was telling the truth about the baby, or if it was just some twisted attempt to mess with my head. But either way, I couldn't just walk away. Not this time. The next few days were a blur. I went through the motions of work, but my mind was somewhere else. She'd found me. After all these years, she had somehow tracked me down. I couldn't shake the thought that maybe she wasn't checking for closure. Maybe she wanted something more. Something that could ruin everything I'd built. I went back to the coffee shop a few times, hoping I wouldn't see her again. I told myself that I could just keep my head down, keep moving forward. But it was hard to do that when my past kept knocking on my door. I hadn't heard from her for a couple of days, and part of me thought that maybe she'd gotten the message. Maybe she realized that I wasn't the same guy I used to be, that I wasn't going to let her pull me back into the chaos we'd once had. But then, my phone rang. It was her. I knew it before I even looked at the screen. My hard answer. She didn't stop. The calls kept coming, one after another. I stared at the phone, debating whether I should pick up, but I knew what she wanted. She wanted answers. She wanted to draw me into her drama again. I finally blocked her number. But it didn't stop there. A few hours later, my inbox filled up with messages. I deleted them all. Then came the text that stopped me in my tracks. See, I'm pregnant. And you need to step up. I read those words over and over, trying to make sense of them. I didn't know if she was lying or if this was real, but either way, it felt like I was being dragged into her mess again. I couldn't take it anymore. I called my lawyer friend, the one who'd helped me with legal stuff when I first moved here. I needed advice and I needed it fast. What do I do? He picked up. Don't engage with her, he said. Get a paternity test. Don't let her manipulate you. Make sure everything is documented. That was it. I needed proof. I needed to know if this child was mine or if I was being set up again. I texted her back, but I didn't say what she wanted to hear. I'll do a DA test. If the kid is mine, we'll talk about it. It has to be done through a certified lab. She didn't respond immediately, but I knew that wasn't the end. She couldn't let it go that easily. The next day, she called me again, her voice all sweet and soft this time. I'm just trying to do the right thing, she said. We need to figure this out. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust a damn word she said. I don't want to hear it, I snapped. I'm getting a legitimate test done, court approved. No more games. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Finally, she spoke, her voice tinged with frustration. You're being controlling again. Why can't you just trust me? I laughed bitterly. Trust you? After everything you've put me through? You've got to be kidding me. She went quiet, but I could hear her breathing through the phone. I didn't care. I was done playing her games. I didn't owe her anything, and I wasn't about to start now. A few days later, she sent me the name of a lab. It was a small, unlicensed place with reviews all over the map. Some people said it was great, others said it was a scam. I Googled it immediately. The reviews were sketchy at best. My stomach dropped. I texted her back. I'm not using that lab. Find a certified one, or I'm not doing this. Her response was immediate. You're just trying to control everything. I already paid for this one. Why can't you just do this for me? I could hear her frustration, and it almost made me laugh. I wasn't playing along anymore. I don't trust that lab. I'm not going through with this unless it's official. She called me, and this time I didn't even bother answering. I knew exactly what she was going to say. Then came another message. If you don't do this, I'm filing for child support. I'll take you to court. I let the words sink in for a second, then responded, I'll meet you at a legitimate facility. If the child is mine, we'll deal with it legally. But no more bullshit. I wasn't going to let her trap me. Not this time. For the first time in years, I felt like I was finally in control. The fear, the guilt, the uncertainty, it all started to fade. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into something I didn't want. Not again. I walked away from the phone, trying to shake the anger, the confusion. This wasn't just about the baby. This was about her trying to drag me back into a life I didn't want. It didn't matter what she said or did. I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her ruin what I had built. The day of the test came faster than I expected. I barely slept the night before, my mind racing with all the worst-case scenarios. I told myself that it didn't matter, whatever the result, I was prepared to handle it. But that wasn't true. I wasn't prepared for this. I arrived at the clinic early, the sterile smell of antiseptic hitting me as soon as I stepped inside. The small waiting room was nearly empty, a couple teeth in through magazines, avoiding eye contact. I sat down, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Every second felt like an eternity. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was nearly time. The door swung open, and there she was. She walked in like nothing had happened, like we hadn't been through hell and back. Her eyes met mine, and she smiled, the same smile that used to make me melt. But now it only made me angry. She hadn't changed. She walked over and sat down across from me, her hands folded in her lap. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I just stared at her, waiting for whatever came next. So she said after a long silence, "Are you ready for this?" I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "Let's get it over with." The technician came out a few minutes later, a middle-aged man with glasses who looked like he had seen every awkward situation imaginable. He introduced himself and led us to the back of the clinic, past rows of exam rooms. I felt the tension in my chest tighten with every step. My mind kept replaying the conversation from the coffee shop. "You're the father." Could she be telling the truth? We went into a small room, where the tech explained the procedure. It was simple, routine. A swab of the cheek, a few forms to sign. He set everything up while I stood there, trying not to think about the absurdity of the whole situation. When the kid walked in, my stomach dropped. He was small, maybe 2 years old, with wide brown eyes and messy hair. He looked confused, as any 2-year-old would when they were thrust into a sterile room with strangers. He looked at me, and I could feel the weight of his gaze, though I didn't know what he saw in me. "This is the guy," she said, looking at the boy. "This is your father." I didn't know what to say. The kid just stared at me, and I stared back. His mother kept glancing between the two of us, almost as she were searching for some sign in my face. The tech asked me to sit down, to give my sample, and then he moved to the kid. I could hear the child's soft cries as the technician attempted to take the swab. The boy was frightened, pulling away, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of kid. He was just a kid. He didn't know what was happening. The tech tried again, gently coaxing him, but the boy cried harder, his tiny hands batting at the technician's arm. It was a mess. I could feel my heart rate spiking as I watched them struggle, and part of me wanted to tell them to stop. Her voice broke the silence. "Stop being difficult," she said sharply, her tone cold. "Just open your mouth. We need this." The boy only cried harder, and I felt a strange pang of anger. What kind of mother yells at her own child like that? I couldn't stand it. I stood up. "Enough," I said, my voice cutting through the tension. Her eyes up to mine, a flash of annoyance crossing her face. "What?" she demanded. "You can't yell at him like that," I said, my voice low but firm. "He's just a kid." She opened her mouth to argue, but the tech spoke up, stepping in between us. "Let's try again in a few minutes," he suggested, his tone calm, professional. I sat back down, my fingers digging into the armrest. I could feel her staring at me, but I refused to look at her. I had already made up my mind. The results would come back, and whatever they were, it wouldn't change the fact that I was done with her. I was done being manipulated, done with all the lies. The tech returned a few minutes later, and thankfully, the boy had calmed down. He took another swab, and this time, the boy didn't cry. He just looked at me with those white eyes, and for a moment, it almost felt like he knew. He knew what was happening, but he didn't understand why. Afterward, we filled out the final paperwork. The tech gave us both a receipt, and we were told the results would be available in a few days. I couldn't wait. I just wanted this whole mess to be over. As we left the clinic, she followed me outside, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement. She was close, too close, but I didn't flinch. "When this comes back positive," she said, her voice softer now, but still full of that same expectant tone, "we need to talk in money. About what you owe. I stopped walking and turned to face her. I'm not doing this, I said, my voice icy. You wanted to ate it. I'm not getting pulled into your drama again. Her eyes narrowed. You're still controlling everything, aren't you? Maybe, I said. But you're the one who messed this up. You were the one who couldn't handle it when I asked you where you were. So yeah, maybe I'm controlling the situation now. But it's my life, and I'm not letting you ruin it. She stared at me for a moment, her jaw clenched, before she spoke again. You're going to regret this, you'll see. Maybe, I said, I'm done with you. If the kid's mine, we'll go through the legal channels. If not, don't ever contact me again. I turned and walked away, feeling the weight of the finality in my steps. The silence of the street was loud in my ears as I drove home, but I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let her win. Not this time. The days dragged on after the test, each one stretching out longer than the last. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep properly at night. The anxiety gnawed at me, turning every passing moment into a ticking clock. I just wanted the results. Wanted everything to end one way or another. I needed the truth. A week later, the email came. The subject line, paternity test results. My stomach dropped the moment I saw it. I opened the email with shaky hands, praying for something that would give me clarity. The results were clear. My eyes scanned the screen again. Disbelief were in which word %% probability of paternity. The child wasn't mine. I read it over once more, then again. %. I leaned back in my chair, the words staring back at me from the screen, mocking me. I should have felt relief, right? The weight should have been lifted, the final answer clear. But all I felt was a cold emptiness. I forwarded the results to lawyer friend, then sat there, staring at my phone. The buzzing started almost immediately. It was her. I didn't need to look at the screen to know that. She left a string of messages, first frantic, then angry, then pleading. I deleted them all without opening them. Then came the phone calls, they didn't stop. Every single time I answered, she screamed. Accused me of sabotaging the test. Told me I'd paid off the lab, that I was hiding the truth. I didn't answer after the first few, but she didn't stop. She called and called and called until I couldn't take it anymore. I blocked every number she had, but still, the emails came. Texts from random numbers. She wasn't done, and neither was I. A few days later, the harassment took a new turn. I was at work when I got served. I didn't even see it coming. The process server showed up at my desk, handing me a thick envelope, his face a mixture of businesslike detachment and mild pity. My heart stopped in my chest. A lawsuit. I ripped it open in the bathroom, my hands shaking. It was from when she was suing me for emotional distress, claiming I owed her $45,000 for abandoning her when she needed me most. $15,000 for the trauma of being left behind, for medical expenses, related-induced conditions, and $20,000 for lost wages and career opportunities. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I'd been sucker punched and hadn't seen this coming. The audacity. The nerve. It wasn't enough that she tried to trap me with a child wasn't mine. Now she was dragging me through the mud again. I called my lawyer friend immediately, his voice calm when he answered. I could barely speak. Calm down, he said. It's not has you cake. She doesn't have a case. This is just her trying to get something out of you, to drag you back in. I didn't say anything. My mind was still spinning. How had it come to this? We'll handle it, he continued. Don't panic. I'll draw up a response. We'll file a counterclaim for harassment for the paternity fraud. We've got the test results, the proof. She's in over her head. He was right, but I still couldn't believe it. I'd spent 3 years building this life, making progress. And now, out of nowhere, she was threatening to tear it all down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. I was barely able to focus on work, my mind constantly occupied with the lawsuit. My lawyer filed our response. We gathered the evidence, text messages, social media protest, everything. In the meantime, she kept calling, kept texting. The messages grew more desperate, more hostile. I ignored them, but each time, a part of me died inside. I knew she would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. Finally, the court date arrived. I showed up with my lawyer, my stomach in knots. The weight of it all pressing on me. She was there, too, her mother at her side, looking more miserable than I'd ever seen her. The boyfriend, her new man, was nowhere to be seen. We sat down in the waiting area, and I could feel the tension radiating off of her. She was staring at me, her jaw clenched. I didn't look back. I refused to engage. When it was our turn, we walked into the courtroom. The judge was an older man, tired, looking like he'd seen too many cases like this one. I could tell by the way he glanced over the paperwork that he wasn't impressed, not by her claims, not by her. Her lawyer went first, arguing that I had emotionally abused her during our relationship, claiming that I abandoned her when she was at her most vulnerable. He painted me as a monster, as the villain who had left her to pick up the pieces of her life. I sat there, listening to the lies, trying to keep my face impassive. I wanted to stand up and scream, but I stayed silent. I had nothing to prove anymore. The judge interrupted him halfway through. Did your client attempt to contact the defendant through legal channels? Did she file a missing person report? Her lawyer stuttered.
Well, no, but
she tried to find him. The judge didn't let him continue. He turned to our side. Mr. Last name, your response. My lawyer stood, presenting our case clearly and calmly. We had the due test. We had the social media posts showing that she was partying just weeks after I left. We had the text records of her calling me controlling. The judge listened, nodded, and then leaned back in his chair, sighing heavily. This is not a case of abandonment, he said. You were not married. You were not living together under common law. There was no legal obligation for him to maintain contact after the relationship ended. The claim of emotional distress has no merit. I could hardly believe it when he dismissed the case. Just like that. But then came the kicker. He turned his attention to the counterclaim. As for the Clingy fraud, the judge said, I'm inclined to believe that there was an attempt to deceive. However, I don't see malicious intent to the point of criminal fraud, but this court will order the plaintiff to pay the defendant's legal fees. She gasped. Her mother's face went white. The judge handed down the ruling. Y'all have 500. I couldn't help but smirk. She had to pay me, after everything she'd put me through. Outside the courtroom, her mother began yelling at me, blaming me for everything that had gone wrong in her daughter's life. She told me I ruined her daughter, that she had to move back home, that she was drowning in debt. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She had no idea what she was talking about. I just turned and walked away. This chapter was finally over. Or so I thought. The relief I felt after the court case didn't last long. It was only a matter of days before I started getting messages again. The calls, the harassment. It was like I couldn't escape her. I'd blocked her on everything, but somehow she found ways around it. New numbers, fadey things she could do to get to me. I didn't respond to a single one. But then, one afternoon, I got an unexpected text. It wasn't from her, but from a number I didn't recognize. You need to step up and take responsibility. My heart sank. For a moment, I thought I was losing my mind. I almost didn't believe it. How many times had she tried this? How many times had she thrown out the same manipulation? I didn't even have to open the message to know what it was. It was her, trying to pull me back in. I stood there, staring at the text. Part of me wanted to just forget it, block the number, move on. But I knew better than that. She wasn't going to stop until I gave her what she wanted. I called my lawyer friend, my hand trembling as I held the phone. She's doing it again, I said, voice low, barely able to form the words. She's trying to manipulate me into something. My lawyer's voice was calm. You know what to do, never do. Don't engage with her directly. If she continues with this, we can sue for harassment. I had enough proof now. Enough evidence. The DNA test was clear. The court case had run. I owed her nothing. I had nothing to give her. But still, the threat lingered in the back of my mind. The next day, I got another text, this one longer. I need help with the baby. The father's name is on the birth certificate. You can't just leave me like this. You can't leave us. My hand shook as I read it. She was twisting the knife now, using the baby as leverage. It sickened me. How had she come up with this plan? How had she thought I would fall for it? I couldn't stay silent this time. I picked up the phone and called her. When she answered, her voice was soft at first. You finally decided to talk. I felt the anger rise in my chest, but I kept it under control. I had to. I'm not doing this anymore, I said. My voice sharp. The test proved I'm not the father. You've made this whole thing up. You're just trying to get something from me. She was silent for a moment, and then she let out a long breath. You think I'm lying? You think I made this up? Yes, said, my voice steady. I think you've been lying the whole time. And I'm not going to let you manipulate me again. Her voice cracked. I was scared, okay? I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe if I showed up, if I told you the truth, you would come back. You would help me. I laughed bitterly. The truth. The truth is you destroyed everything. You lied to me for years, and now you're trying to get me to feel guilty. It's not gonna work." Her tone shifted, more desperate now. "You owe me, Felix. You owe me for everything. For the years we spent together. For the baby." I shook my head, unable to believe what I was hearing. "No. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you a damn thing." There was a pause, a long silence that stretched out like a rope between us. Wasn't done. I knew she was going to try again. But I wasn't going to let her. "You need to get over this," I said, the words coming out harder now, like I was speaking to someone who wasn't even human anymore. "You need to stop lying. Stop using me to fix your mess. It's over." She didn't respond right away. I could hear her breathing on the other end, the harshness of her exhale cutting through the silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice low, almost threatening. "You're going to regret this." I hung up before she could say more, my heart pounding in my chest. I felt sick, but I also felt something else, a clarity I hadn't had before. I was done. I wasn't going to play her games anymore. The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, more threats and more attempts to drag me into her chaos. She kept texting, calling, sending people after me. But each time I blocked her, each time I walked away, I felt a little stronger. And then one day a letter arrived. It wasn't from her but from her lawyer, another lawsuit. This time, it was for emotional distress again, but now she was claiming $40,000. She said I had ruined her life, left her in debt, and destroyed her chances of ever moving on. She said I had caused her psychological trauma, that I was responsible for her financial ruin. I read through the letter with a cold detachment. I fought anger, not fear, nothing. I texted my lawyer, "Send them the evidence. I'm not paying a cent. Let's end this for good." The battle wasn't over, but I wasn't going to lose. Not this time. The next few weeks felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. She wasn't going to stop. I knew that now. Every phone call, every text, every new attempt to drag me back into her mess. It was all part of the same sick game she'd been playing. I'd blocked her on every number, every social media account, but somehow, she always found a way to reach me. One afternoon, I stepped out of the office to grab a coffee, only to see her standing there across the street, her eyes locked on mine as she watched me. I froze for a second, my heart skipping a beat. My blood ran cold. It was like she was stalking me now, following me through my life as if I owed her something. I kept walking. I didn't break my stride, didn't even acknowledge her. She didn't follow me.
Yeah.
That look, that feeling of being watched, it stuck with me. The dread in the pit of my stomach grew deeper. Later, I got a new text. This time it wasn't from her directly, but from her mother. "Leave my daughter alone. She's been through hell, and you've done enough damage." I stared at the screen, the words burning in my gut. Damage. I hadn't done a thing but walk away. I hadn't asked for any of this. I hadn't asked for her to lie, to try and trap me with a fake pregnancy, to drag me through a lawsuit. I was done. But it didn't stop. A few days later, I was at a bar with some friends, trying to enjoy a rare moment of peace. I'd barely taken a sip of my drink when my phone buzzed. I looked down, and there it was, her number. I let it ring 3 times before I picked up. I wasn't to be a coward and avoid it anymore. It was time to face it. "Felix," she said, her voice hoarse, like she had been crying. "We need to talk." I stood up, walking away from my table. "Get some privacy." "About what?" I asked, my voice cold, flat. "You don't get it, do you?" she replied. "I'm trying to move on, making this impossible. You keep running away from me." I scoffed. "I'm running away. You're the one who's been harassing me for months. You're the one who won't leave me alone." There was silence on the other end for a moment. I could almost hear her thinking, trying to find the words. "You've ruined everything, Felix. You're still the only one who can fix this." I laughed bitterly. "I can't fix anything. I'm not your savior. I'm done trying to save you. You're going to regret this," she said again, her voice rising. "You'll see. I'll make sure of it. I'll make you regret leaving me." The threat hung in the air, and I almost felt the urge to say something, anything, to shut her down, to tell her I was done. But I didn't. I just held the phone in my hand, staring at the street, the world passing by as she raged on the other end. "Fine," I interrupted her. "I'm not doing this," I said, my voice cutting through her anger. "I'm not listening to this anymore. I'm done." I had to call before she could say anything else. But she wasn't done. Of course she wasn't. The next few days, I got more texts, more calls, more threats. And then, the worst of it came. I was at work when I got served again. This time, it wasn't from a process server. It was an email. You are being sued for child support. I nearly choked on my coffee. I stared at the screen, the words blurring in front of me. A child support. My mind raced, my pulse quickening. I clicked open the It Was Other lawsuit. This time, it wasn't just emotional distress. She was claiming I owed her backdated child support for it wasn't even mine. She'd filed a petition in court. She was coming after me for money. I slammed the phone down on my desk, my head spinning. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was something else entirely. I didn't know how she thought she could get away with it. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let her win. I called my lawyer, told him what had happened. He was calm as usual, but I could hear the frustration in his voice. This is beyond ridiculous. We'll fight this, Felix. Don't worry. You've got the evidence. You're in the right. But I wasn't sure anymore. The exhaustion, the constant back and forth, it was wearing me thin. Every time I thought I was free, she pulled me back into her web. I didn't know how much longer I could keep fighting. The court date for this new lawsuit was set for a month from now. A month. It felt like an eternity. I wanted to leave, to just disappear and never look back. But I couldn't. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. So, I prepared. I gathered everything I had. The texts, the emails, the evidence. Everything. I wasn't going to let her drag me through the mud again. I wasn't going to lose. Not again. And when the day came, I was ready. The court date came faster than I expected. I showed up early, just like I had for every other time this twisted circus had dragged me into the legal system. I was tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being here. Tired of the endless back and forth. But today was different. Today I wasn't going to just defend myself. I was going to put an end to this once and for all. I sat down in the courtroom, my lawyer beside me. Her lawyer was already there, looking smug as always, confident in his ability to twist the truth however he saw fit. I felt the familiar pressure in my chest, the weight of the last few months bearing down on me. But I wasn't going to let them see me sweat, not now. When the judge walked in, everything fell silent. He looked over at me, then at her. I could tell he had seen too many cases like this. People try and get away with lies, with manipulation. He wasn't fooled. Her lawyer went first, trying to paint me as the villain. He described me as cold, distant, the kind of man who'd abandon a woman who was clearly struggling. He claimed I'd ruined her life, that I'd left her to pick up the pieces alone. The usual story, the one she'd been telling for years. I didn't say a word, I just listened, letting him finish. My lawyer didn't interrupt, didn't try to argue, he let the other side dig their own grave. Then it was my turn. I stood up, feeling the eyes of everyone in the room on me. I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the sides of the table. This was it. No more games. I'm not the villain here, I said. My voice steady, louder than I expected. I'm not the white about being pregnant. I'm not the one who tried to trap someone with a fake paternity test. I'm not the one who came back after 3 years to try force someone into a life they don't want. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. I could see her shift in her seat, the anger bubbling up in her chest. But I didn't care. I was done being afraid of her. I gave her space. She asked for it. I gave her everything she wanted, and then I left. I didn't owe her anything, but I still did the right thing. I didn't deserve this. None of this is my fault. The judge raised an eyebrow, but I didn't back down. I kept going, telling the truth as plainly as I could. How she'd twisted the story, how she'd manipulated me every step of the way, and how she was still trying to control me now. The judge didn't say anything at first, just listened quietly as I finished. When I sat back down, I felt a sense of relief I hadn't felt in months. I'd said what I needed to say. The truth was out there for everyone to hear. The rest of the hearing passed in a blur. The lawyer for other side tried to argue, but it was clear they didn't have much left. Every piece of evidence we had, every text, every test was stacked against her. She had nothing. Finally, the judge spoke. The case is dismissed. There is no evidence to support the claims of emotional distress, nor any legal grounds for the child support petition. Mr. Dear last name, I'm ruling in your favor. The plaintiff will be responsible for your legal fees. Finally, I could hardly believe it. For so long I had been caught in her web, trying to fight my way out. But now it was done. I didn't even look at her as I stood up and walked out of the courtroom. I couldn't. I didn't need to see her face. The satisfaction I felt wasn't about winning, it was being free. Finally, truly free. I walked out of the building, my steps firm, my head held high. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else pull me down a dam. I deleted every trace of her. All the old texts, all the social media accounts. I didn't need reminders of the past. I changed my number once more, just to be sure, and then I erased everything. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living for myself. No more games, no more lies, no more her. I started over, a new life, a new city, new friend, most importantly, peace. A few months later, I met someone new. She was different. She was patient, kind, and, most importantly, she communicated. We didn't play games. We didn't need to tell her about the whole mess with my ex. I didn't need to. Maybe one day I would, but for now, I wanted to leave it all behind. I still think about it sometimes. About how close I came to losing everything because of her. But I've learned something in all this. Space. It's a powerful thing. It's how you finally see things clearly. It's how you move forward. And for the first time, I felt like I finally had enough of it. I wasn't looking back anymore.